Which camera am I on? I think I'm on the wrong camera.
What's up, everybody? I'm Dustin Coiner from Talkin Motorbikes, TrackDaz, whatever. Superbike Genius episode tonight. And I'm live with Richard Stanboli from the Fresh and Lean Progressive Yamaha Racing Team, presented by Attack Performance. And Richard, if you turn your camera back on, it'd be great.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right camera. I don't know what's doing this silly camera thing.
Well, it looks like you're up now. Oh, well, you keep going and...
We're all high tech over here.
Yeah, Attack Performance, you're definitely not an IT guy. Even though you know enough about IT to be dangerous in that world, you're still a mechanic. Machinist. Engineer.
Again.
All right, yeah. Quit turning your camera off, man.
I'm trying to figure out which
What's wrong with you?
I'm on the wrong camera. I'm on, see this?
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong camera.
Okay.
Stupid computer. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So we just had a weekend at COTA.
Yeah.
And how'd it go, man?
Yeah, it went all right. It was up and down, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting comments that the Shrek and Donkey are back.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, obviously, let's just go about it. I mean, we, you had Jake doing Jake things in qualifying and all of that, and breaking lap record that stood since 2017. So
yeah, can we restart? Because I really don't like this camera. I'm gonna switch.
I
can't switch it while you're going.
Well, you know what? I will tell you what. Why don't you jump out and then jump back in?
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. Richard's gonna jump out and jump back in because he hates his camera. It matters. Oh yeah, maybe VP is in charge of the Wi-Fi. Nice one, David. Appreciate that, dude. Yeah, the Wi-Fi. Maybe Richard's got some Taco Bell internet tonight. I don't know. But I guess he's gonna jump back in a second. So stand by. And thank you guys for tuning in and watching this thing too. For those of you who just jumped in, Richard's jumped out briefly so he can switch cameras. I don't know. He was having like a meltdown, as he does. But yeah, tonight we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We're going to talk about Jake breaking lap records. We're going to talk about JD getting on the box. Talking about how damn near everybody that rides that thing can get on the box. Oh, look, here he's coming.
All right.
Look, now you got the right camera on.
Yes.
Are you okay now?
I'm fine. Now you got the good side. No, there's no good side of me.
Wow. Okay, so
Sarah, for that, I said I finally figured out why you keep capturing my bad side. She's like, why is that? I go, because I have no good side.
I mean, whatever, man. So like when I talked about briefly before you punched out, talking about Gagne doing Gagne things.
Yeah.
Breaking that old lap record that Roger Lee Hayden set in 2017.
That was actually a good lap record because that was done on a real cue. And those things were worth like a second and a half, if you remember. It might have been more than that. I'd have to go back and look at the lap times that they were doing in the race and in qualifying prior to put that cue on. That gives you a little better reference because Gagne did that on a race tire. He didn't do it on a cue. He never ran the cue. Yeah,
he did it on like a, what do you call it, a R7, right, or R5?
No, R5.
R5. Okay.
There was only two choices that weekend. It was an R5 or R7, and we'd gone there, a month before, whatever that deadline is. Us and Indian and Ducati, and we ran around a little bit and got a little bit of tire data. And so then Dunlop decided, well, it's only going to be the R5 and R7 that's going to be worthy. They were going to put an R3 on for a cue, but then told them, hey, the R3 goes like 7 laps. So it's not really a cue tire. It's more like a race tire that won't go.
Right.
So then they brought that R0, which I think it was okay for that track. Normally, it's not really much of a benefit at all, but that's what JD used, and it was worth something for him for sure. But
Yeah.
Jake just used the race tire to qualify. And I'm kind of proponent right now of either real cues or just ditch the cues. They're just too much of a distraction. You know, especially a track like that, you'll go out and do a couple laps, come in and grab the cue, do a couple laps, your session's over.
Right.
It's so long. You know, so I think we're better off anyway with Jake able to do laps, or JD do laps, or Camp P doing laps, and working on a perfect line than the one bonsai lap.
Right. Well, I mean, I noticed what you're saying. I noticed that Jake was doing like, I think he did an 8-9 in Q1. And I was like, wow, okay. But then Saturday morning rolls up, and we're about to go out, and I could hear Darren Marshall was saying that you guys had found something and made a change or whatever. And yeah, man, you know how he says, right? And Darren Marshall's like, yeah, man, and basically it was like that was his answer to my question of whether or not they're going to go faster today, you know, for Q2.
Yeah.
And I looked at Mark Gagne and I was like, are we going to see like low 08s? He's like, hey, he's my kid, you know, like he's all cocky. Like
he's proud of his kid. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super fun. And,
yeah. So he did 8.4 on the first race tire, and then he put another race tire on, came and sat for a minute, put another race tire on, did 8.1. We sent JD out behind him.
He did a few 8s though, didn't he? He was
he did a bunch of 8s. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty great to see that, you know, considering
8.4, 8.6, 8.6, 8.9. So there's a whole string of 8s on that race tire in the morning, and then he went out and did 8.1 and then called it.
Yeah.
New race tire, not a cue.
Yeah, and nobody else. Was anybody else in the 8s?
I don't know. I have to go back and look at Motor America's results and see.
I'm looking at Q2 right now, and on Jake's 8th recorded lap, he did the 081. So
yeah, well, that was after he came in and grabbed another tire.
Yeah, Richie Escalante is the Richie did an 8.9.
Yeah, I remember.
And Heron did an 8.8.
Yeah.
But, you know, Jake was like 8.4, 8.6, 8.6, 8.9. Like he was camping out. He had the RV. He was making s'mores in the 08s. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a little bit different kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm getting comments from from the one Honda guy there that kind of he was a stock 1000 guy in the next pit box over.
Yeah.
And, yeah. You know, the weird Honda guy, you know, and Trevor Watson. And he's like, man, they ran out of R5s at COTA. We were like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Really?
How come you didn't bring enough of the quote spec tire you make us run? So I don't know what he ended up running, but I guess
honestly, the R5 and the R7 are pretty much the same at COTA.
Were they?
Yeah, they reacted pretty much the same. The R5 had a little more bite initially, but I think the R7 would have been better for the long run. I think Heron jumped on that in the second race. I heard something about they decided to change the tire.
Yeah.
So, and I think his pace was more consistent with that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the lap chart up right now, and I'm looking at it for race 2. I mean, Heron did like a 210 on his first flyer, like 309s, and then he was back to basically low 210s until the last lap. He did a 10.9. Yeah,
it's pretty consistent. You got to hand him that.
Yeah. I mean, dude, that guy's not a fan, but he's riding really well. You know.
He has his moments.
He does, right? Like he's got those moments where you're like, shit, man, where was that guy all year? You know?
Well, he doesn't have his moments all the time. That's the difference between a champion and not a champion.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, okay. So let's get back into the race 1. I mean, you've got your substitute guy ended up on the podium as well. You know, Jake goes out and just dish. Mushroom prints everybody basically, right? And then Jake ends up on the box too, and I'm like,
mushroom print.
You know what that means?
I don't know what that means.
God, you're gonna make me describe it. He whooped everybody's ass, basically.
Oh,
Let's
that,
put it
that
that
is.
way.
I don't know what that's got to do with the mushroom.
It's basically he's like, you're gonna make me do it, huh? You're a dick. Wow. And you know what? I would too, man. Anyway, so you've got Jake wins by the Texas mile, basically, right? And then you've got JD roll. He's the substitute guy, and he goes in podiums. Like, I was joking with you on Saturday evening, and I was like, dude, it doesn't matter who you put on this thing, it'll be in the box, right?
Well, I mean, the R1 in general, right? So
Yeah.
you got to think back. Let's go back in history. So I don't know how many super stock bikes have been on the Superbike podium, but for sure, Stoltz on the super stock bike has been on the Superbike podium. I think he won one in the wet or something like that, didn't he? On the super stock bike,
Maybe. Was
Barber,
that 17? Maybe?
Yeah, 17 maybe or something like that.
Yeah.
And then in 16, Heron on that mean bike.
Right.
He put the thing on the box at Laguna Seca, and that's when there was a few more competitive Superbikes there. Yosh team, Yamaha team, and so the R1 has been pretty successful in all trims. And then you think about all the guest riders we've had. I mean, Hayes was pretty competitive on it. I think he's probably the only one that didn't get on the box on our bike because he fell down at qualifying, so it was tough at Brainerd to get up in there. But at the end, he was doing the lap times of the leaders.
Yeah.
Bobby, he hasn't been on the box yet, but he was on pole. That was our old bike with Bobby.
Oh yeah, Bobby. Yeah.
Fong.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking back, and then you had Tony Ilias. He jumps on the bike, finishes second, right? Heron was on the box a number of times on our bike. Obviously, Jake, when he first hopped on it, coming from Scheibe's, he finished second in the championship with a little bit of Yamaha experience from when he rode the 1,000 for those factory guys. I can't remember what they're called.
Walker's program.
Yeah. And so you kind of look at all the riders who've ridden it, and they've all been pretty successful. Not taking it away from JD because he did an excellent job. But it is a pretty easy bike to ride. I think that's what makes the difference. Once the guy gets his head around, I think with Fong, it was like learning the drone of the engine. I know some guys struggle with that. Like, where's this thing rev if they get off a screamer like a Suzuki or BMW or something like that?
Oh, okay. They're not used to the tone of the engine. That's the
tone. Yeah. They don't know where it revs.
That's a new one. Yeah, it does.
I heard that.
It is different. Like
you've riding for a while, so you don't really understand what they're saying. But you hop on a Suzuki, they're going to be screaming, and the tone changes throughout the RPM range. But with these things, there's kind of pretty consistent.
Right.
And so the limiter sometimes sneaks up on them and catches them by surprise, or they're shifting too early. It's kind of the way when we did the Triumph way back in the day at Daytona. I used to always tell the guys, keep revving it. Oh, I can't tell when it's not revving. You're not revving it high enough, that kind of thing. So it takes a bit to get used to it, but once they get used to it, I think generally most guys go pretty fast on these things.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows like everybody you put on the thing damn near ends up on the box, right? So
yeah, pretty competitive, right? I mean, they're racing the lead group. They're not in the back.
Right.
So that's a good point. But JD was really came to track really motivated. I think after PIRC, having 3 races and all that time on the bike, he's starting to feel like the bike's his. So the buttons, the rear brake, finger lever, all that stuff, he's very accustomed to using already. And that's only a couple of events, but I think he really is motivated about road racing again.
Dude, his attitude is so positive. His energy in the pits, it
he's
bleeds
super
off.
focused.
You guys all you can tell that his vibe, basically his energy level or whatever you want to call it, like all of that just totally sucks you guys in too. Like you guys are all like, let's do it, like.
Yeah, I mean, Campy's kind of the same way. He's very positive, full of energy, focused when the racetrack. JD's like that as well. I mean, he's all about that motorcycle, all about racing motorcycles. And it doesn't matter if it's a flat tracker or road race bike or motocross, he's about riding that motorcycle. So he's a pro motorcycle racer. That's what he is.
Yeah, I mean,
so he brings that. He isn't there for, you know, umbrella girls and this and that and whatever else. You know, all the distractions. He just wants to ride motorcycles. So it's kind of a good base to build up, because when you start talking to them and start showing them, I was showing Hannah Lopa the variances that the data puts out and tells you, okay, hey, you're strong on the brakes here, but you're giving up some exit speed, or you're losing time here. So you go through and you show the guys where they're slow, where they're fast, and you'll see JD go back and try to adjust it. One of the things I noticed in race 1, something that I think Richie has to work on, is Richie's kind of a one angle rider, is what I've seen. Like he doesn't move around on the bike like a Superbike. He's more of a 600 rider. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And JD was a 600 champ a couple times, right?
Yeah,
and
several times, I think, wasn't he?
But when you go, hey man, you gotta get on the top of part of the tire. You gotta do this, you gotta do that, and they'll see it in the data trace a couple laps later. You know, you watch the video, and he's smaller, so he can't move around the bike as much as as Jake does. So we raise the pegs and change some of the ergonomics for him. And he definitely was using more of the center, the meaty part of the tire than I say that Richie was on that first race, because he caught up to Richie. I think he closed up like 7/10 on that last lap. And I think if that thing went one more lap, it would have been over. Richie would have got third, and JD would have got second.
Yeah.
You can see he was giving up grip. And part of that's because he used the edge of the tire a long time. So, so that part was good to watch, and race 2 wasn't quite as much fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, Jake kind of after, Jake wasn't there. Like, it was like not the same dude from Saturday. And, I talked to his dad a little bit, and I guess he's got like a carpal tunnel thing going on where his right hand basically goes completely numb and he can't feel the brake lever anymore.
Yeah, I remember JD and him were having a conversation about that, and JD was telling him about how in flat track his hand was going numb, and he couldn't feel anything and couldn't turn the grip and all that stuff. And he said that Dr. Brian went in and made an incision right here, and the nerve is all flattened out. Something similar to that, in the palm there. And apparently it's like a 3-week recovery, but he goes in, opens it up, and then I don't know what he does, if he reshapes the nerve or gives it room to pass impulses or whatever he does. I'm not a wrist expert, but apparently they cut that, give it a little bit of room, and then the nerve starts to work again, and then you start getting your feeling. And I think I heard Jake talking to John about that. Like, my hand went numb, or John mentioned to me, like halfway through the race, his hand went numb. Yeah. And he couldn't feel the lever or the grip, and the right hand turns obviously is a little bit harder because you have to hang off. And so that's something he'll get fixed in the winter and on the Superbike racing again. Yeah. I mean, and then JD. So I don't know if that happens over time. Like, the first race was good, but I remember hearing him talk about it after. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that makes a bunch of excuses. No. He goes out and does his thing. I think he told me, well, he can't win them all. I think after race 2, I said, no, you can win them all. He won them all before. You're right. But he kind of just goes, oh well, I got beat. I've heard him say that before, and he's not going to go and make a bunch of excuses. Oh, my hand, oh, my leg, oh, my this, oh, my that. I had COVID. He's not that guy. He's just like, oh, I got beat. Yeah. And then you move on to the next race, basically. Yeah, that's a good attitude to have for a racer on your team. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's something he's going to have to get done. Yeah. Over the winter. Yeah. And then, I mean, it's funny. We got Cam P with a wrist thingy. Then you got no movement, and then you got Jake with his arm pump. And maybe the bikes are hard to ride. Yeah, maybe, man. Cam P was talking about his surgery that he had, and man, it's pretty significant surgery that he had. I mean, he took that whole row of bone out of his wrist right there. I was like, what? Yeah, that's a Dr. Mengele stuff going on over there. Yeah, dude. Bones are going to stitch you back up and see how much movement you got. Yeah. Oh.
man, he's like took that whole row out. And I'm like, he's like, look, I already have more movement than before. And it like barely moves. And I'm like, what? And then you go back and you look at video from the races.
Yeah,
you can see him. He's like, huh. There's a
motorcycle.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine that he used to race in SV. His name's Al Garcia. And Al Garcia, he broke his wrist really bad and he had it fused, and that's how he would ride. And Campy looked like that, but he was doing that so it wouldn't bend and hurt him. It's like, you know, I could only imagine what he was going through. It's got to be painful. So hopefully that sorts him out and he could ride 10/10 like before.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously JD, race 2, colorful, you know, right?
Yeah. You know, I kept the race 1. He got up in there on the inside, and he said he got in there so hot. He thought he was going to knock down a bunch of guys. You know, because he got a good start, but got in on the inside. Everyone kind of parks it going into turn 1. You know, trying to make that left. So he said he grabbed that rear brake. It's the finger brake, and they had the thing locked up and sideways. I said, well, it's a. Let me see here. You got to start and turn left. Are you sure you're good with that? You know, being flat track. Yeah. And anyways, he got in there all sideways, and everybody went around the outside. So he had to fight his way through and got himself the third. You know, I think if he had a better start in the first race, he would have got the second place shot. You know. Yeah. But in race 2. He went around the outside and turned in right, and he was right there in P3. I mean, he had a great start and tucked the front. And then we lucked out. We lucked out because somebody else blew up. There was a lot of failures. Yeah, failures that weekend. That was the blow up was Hayden Gillum, right? He was like taking his boots and throwing them. You know, he had oil all over him. I guess his shit caught fire. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I have my ideas what's causing all these blowups. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can get into detail on that, but I'm being told Chuck Chiquetto just told me that your microphone is loud, so I'm going to turn you down. I'm going to turn your mic down a little bit. Yeah. How about that, Chuck? That's I don't know. Anyway, so. You guys, JD comes in during the red flag, and the boys go to work and I think you replaced the foot peg. No, I just got the parts out. So Lee was doing something else. I told them as soon as it comes in, because we had a little plan. As soon as it comes in, we know the handlebar is going to be bent because he fell on that side, and then I think rolled over the top too. So as soon as it comes in, I said it's going to be the right peg. Right bar, so we have a bar that's ready to go with all the electronic throttle and all that stuff on it. And then I got the peg bracket off, but I told the boys, I said, make sure the tires aren't cut, make sure the rims aren't bent, and then put the warmers on. Don't just put warmers on straight away. And so anyway, so while Lee was doing that, I got the bracket and started working on the other side just to make sure the bracket was done. And then when Lee was done with the tire, he took over on the foot peg bracket, and I went to work on duct taping the cracked tail, you know, so it all went pretty smooth. Yeah, unfortunately, JD's leathers tore. Oh wow! Zipper opened up on his forearm. Oh, so we spent a little bit of time trying to fix that, and that's one of the reasons why he was out late. Oh, we're still taping that thing up, and then once he got on the bike, he was like, "Oh, the lever's a little too high." So but you know, it's one of those weird things. Like they announced 1 minute. But they don't have a clock running. So I was looking up and down pit lane. There was no clock. The clock was off. Yeah. So I don't know why they didn't have a countdown clock going. And JD couldn't see a countdown clock when he was rolling down pit lane. Otherwise, he'd turn it off the pit limiter and sped. And we would have taken the fine, you know? Yeah. It's like $150, but at least he wouldn't have to start at the back of the grid. Right. You know, so if you'd known you only had 10 seconds, just all the way down pit lane and take the fine. So anyway, that was a little bit. The whole clock thing is still kind of weird. But Motor America, I think, has really stepped it up as far as their communication. They had a new app this weekend. Yeah. We were talking about that because you know, this show has been critical.
It's been quite critical of the inconsistent lack of communication is the biggest thing I think we've kind of harped on.
Yeah, I don't know about inconsistent, but lack of communication. Like a lot of times we don't know what's going on before it happens.
Right.
So we know what happens when it happens, but sometimes we're not 100% sure what happens. And we had that talk with Nicole, and I think they've done a good job with this app. It's not completely fine-tuned, I don't think, but it's got some kind of weird name like Sportity. You know, Sportity. I mean, it's a weird name. It's not sporty. Sportity. Yes, that's the app. So you sign up for this thing, and they give you all the bulletins and all the updates, and they tell you what the grid is, and you can get your results on it. So it's kind of cool. They're going to finally do away with paper. They promised that to us. I don't know, a couple years back. We're not going to print anything, but they keep printing it. But the old guys like John, he still wants paper. You know, he wants to be able to touch paper.
Yes.
And I'm like, dude, what's the difference? You got the numbers on your screen right there. Oh no, I gotta have it in front of me. It is in front of you. It's right there.
Yeah, your phone's in front of you. Like, you can even zoom it. Like.
Yeah, Marshall. I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but Marshall uses sticky notes on his screen, but he uses the digital sticky notes, right?
Of course.
Yeah, so he's got to make a note. He's got those little digital sticky notes, and he's got his little clipboard too.
Yes.
And he doesn't want to forget anything. But John's got like 3 or 4 clipboards with all this, what I call the wooden database.
The wooden database.
Yes. I told him, hey man, what was the air temp? He's like flopping through all this paper trying to get to it. I go, dude, on our setup sheets, there's a spot right there for the air temp. So he's got his like 2 laptops and his wooden database, like 4 clipboards. But anyway, so he's before that, he would take a piece of paper and write down like the tire allocation and tape it to the bottom of the keyboard so you can look at it. I go, you could put that on a little note on the screen, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a notepad.
You know what? He's old school. He's.
I don't have a notepad.
He's not much older than you, is he?
3 or 4 years, maybe.
Yeah. What? Like, how come he acts like? How come he acts like such a geriatric? Like, I don't know. Like, he's so old school.
I don't think he thinks he is, though.
No, yeah, he doesn't. You're right. He doesn't.
He's had a lot of racing injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he acts that way. I think the racing injuries are pretty serious that he's had.
Yeah.
Legs and this and that. I mean, he raced 250s. He's a damn good rider. He's a really smart suspension guy. I think I think just about anybody in the paddock would hire him.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. So
legend. I mean, I was giving him shit. I was like, dude, I was watching that 250 race again, and I was like, man, you put some passes on. He put some passes on people. It was like it was a 250 race. I can't remember where, but it was like 91.
Yeah, but he still thinks he can hop on a bike and race.
Yeah.
He goes, well, yeah. I got to lose a little bit of this gut.
Yeah.
But he was racing in Canada until not that long ago. Like, I don't know. I can't remember exactly when, but he was still throwing it in there, I think, on a Harley XR or something like that. I think that's when he had his last injury. But anyway, going down a rabbit hole with sticky notes.
I mean, that's okay. So how about this? Over the course of the weekend, we were in the garages with the garage doors closed. Like, we kind of got accused a few times by fans and competitors that we were hiding. So what were we hiding from, Richard?
The air conditioning. Our garages were air conditioned.
We were hiding from the heat, morons. Like
those garages, I think they used them for the classrooms.
Yeah.
When the bucks up car guys go there, do their little club thing.
Yeah.
They all sit there in little driving suits and gloves and shoes and stuff,
Yeah.
And they put out the chairs, they get a track map, and you don't want to make those guys sweat. They're all like billionaires. So that those few garages, those first few that probably people didn't want because they didn't have a place to put their trailer or whatever, those things were air conditioned. I didn't even know. I was like, garage 5 and 6. Somebody's pointing up in the ducts. I go, I think these are all air conditioned. I go, really? And then the boys shut the doors like, oh, it is air conditioned. Oh, that's cool. I don't think I broke a sweat the whole weekend.
Yeah.
I felt a little guilty, honestly, because there was mechanics dropping in the paddock and going to the hospital. At least I know one guy that did.
Really?
Can't remember his name, but yeah, the guy that Perk. You remember Perk? Jeff Perk.
Oh, yeah.
And he bought one. He bought Garrett's Superbike, Garrett Gerloff Superbike, like in 21 or whatever.
Right.
And he was racing his stocker, I guess, in Superbike over there. And he said, they had a medical emergency. He had to help somebody go to the hospital or something like that.
Wow. I mean, I know that Ezra Bobier ended up in the hospital with food poisoning or something. He's like, yeah, man. I talked to him on Sunday. He finally come back, and he's like, yeah, man, I ate a taco Wednesday night, and it just ruined me for the weekend. You know, but his mom told me it was a stomach flu.
I know this isn't a travel show, but man, isn't Austin the weirdest place you've ever been?
Oh my God, it is the weirdest. Yes. It's like not representative of Texas, really. I don't think. It's more like the
San Francisco in the middle of Texas.
I was gonna say Hollywood, but yeah.
Yeah, Hollywood, middle of Texas.
Yeah. Middle of Texas, Hollywood. Yep. Super weird. There's weird signs everywhere. Oh yeah, people are commenting liberal city.
Oh well, that's for sure.
Yeah, every city's a liberal city, dude. Like,
no, only the ones with really bad roads and really bad sidewalks, a whole lot of homelessness, and no public infrastructure. Did you see any policemen there at all?
Yes, but
you did.
On the freeways.
Not in downtown. Yeah. Oh yeah, they had emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
But downtown, we went downtown to have dinner.
I didn't see a police officer. I will say this at the parking spot that we had dinner Saturday night. Gil and I walked back to the car, and I had actually re-upped my parking meter. You know, it texted me an alert like, "Hey man, your time's about to run out." And I was thinking that we were almost done with dinner anyway, and I was like, "Nah," but this sounds weird, so I'm gonna pay it. Like whatever. Dude, I get back, and these two dudes were waiting on a tow truck or whatever because their car got booted. I guess that's a thing. Like they go in and they'll put a boot on your car, and they got to spend like $300 or whatever to get this boot taken off.
Yeah, that's a. I mean, just the you drive into the city, and it's like crack house, $1.4 million house right next to it. And you look, and Will was looking them up. It's like, oh, that's 1.4. I go, are you kidding me? That's 1.4 million. That's like a few $100,000 in the other city.
Right in Texas.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
in Texas.
Yeah.
And they were building these high-rise apartments over there, and you know, some kind of swanky dinner spots, and lots of people look like they got. I mean, there was a woman in front of us driving a Lamborghini SUV. You look it up; it's like $340,000. That particular model.
Yeah.
Next to a crack house. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, I mean, I told you about the Airbnb that Gil and I stayed at, which was like 10 minutes from there. It's funny. Chiquetto mentioned something like that. He said he refuses to do the Airbnb thing because he doesn't know the neighborhoods. And now I know why. Because I don't know about you, but did your hotel have a street mattress outside?
No.
Yeah, because our Airbnb did, like down the street.
No, we were near the airport. And our hotel was nice. It was a suite.
And there may or may not have been gunshots at like 11:30 p.m. Saturday night too. That was something.
Maybe just noise. People having fun.
Oh, it was clearly gunshots. Yeah, it was like bang, 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 bang. Yeah.
They have a supersonic crack that followed it.
Oh, dude.
You can tell.
Like somebody, it sounded like somebody unloaded a clip, basically,
really?
in the air or something. But it was within the block.
Right.
You could tell what it sounds like. It's not a firecracker. It totally sounds different. But,
let's go back to racing.
Yeah, Austin's weird, right? Like, I mean, you know, barbecue, breakfast tacos, racing. The race team did get breakfast tacos Friday morning. So
yeah, those were good. I don't know where you got them, but they didn't give me any problems.
no, of course not. They're like those, like you said, the fancy food spots or whatever, right? So, but yeah, okay. So you guys, P1 and P3 race 1, race 2,
Mhm.
P2 and DNF.
Yeah, yeah. So that red flag came out because of blown engine, and then JD didn't get out in time, so had to start dead last. And then his opening lap was pretty interesting. You know, he got a pretty good start. By the time he got, I think, out of turn 11, going down that straightaway, he was already in like P7 or 6.
Yeah.
And he caught up to Skoltz. Sorry, Chuck. And
Right.
he said that Matt was struggling a bit, so he tried to pass him going into, I think, turn 19.
Right.
And you know, Matt didn't know he was there. He tightened up the line to go to the apex, and JD had nowhere to go, so he pulled the brake and then went over a bump and, you know, lost the front and crashed into Matt. Took him out, unfortunately, along with Chuck's bike. So 2 Yamahas down just like that. Boom.
Sucks. Yeah, you know, I mean, those guys had a tough weekend, man. I mean, there was a morning warm-up session where I was seeing Matt was doing like 212s, and I was like,
yeah, he was. They were struggling. I think they missed on the setup a little bit. I'm not sure why. I didn't. You know, Ed runs the show over there as far as the chassis dynamics and work with the rider and stuff like that. And you don't really want to step on their toes too much. You know, you kind of let them do what they do. And if they get stuck on something, we're always open book.
right.
We're that way for Bobby's team, you know, with Dave Anthony. He doesn't really come over much, but Nick and Robbie Peterson, actually it's Cameron's dad. He crew chiefs, or whatever he does. If you call it crew chief or Nick's a crew chief, I'm not sure who's what over there, but
Right.
let's call him crew chief. And then Nick's the electronics guy. I mean, we consult with him a lot, and especially Marshall. He gives them a lot of information as far as what we're doing with electronics, and try to raise the level of all the Yamaha competitors.
I'm getting a text message from Chuck Giacchetto saying that they started the weekend with back foot itis because they missed the first sessions for whatever reason.
Yeah, well, we did also.
Yeah, that's right.
We had, yeah. You know, I tell it the way it is, right? So there's a number of files that go into the way our software is. We broke out the various parts of the software so we can modify one section and send it in instead of trying to process all the whole file. So Marshall missed one file that was already in the system for the dyno. So we run the bikes on the dyno, and then we take them to the track, and then Marshall does his whole thing. But there was some little glitch with the throttle in the morning, so he got focused on that. He got a little distracted, and he left the dyno bit in the ECU, and both guys went out, and the thing was virtually unrideable.
Oh wow!
You know, and then we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out why, and we burned pretty much the whole session, and then it was like all of a sudden, oh shit! I didn't send this one file over, you know, kind of thing, and it happens the best of them, you know. So we kind of blew that session, but we recovered pretty quick because unlike the recipe guys, we tested there for a couple days.
Right.
I think that was pretty important as far as that event goes. You know, originally we thought, okay, hey, this thing's going to go all the way to New Jersey for the championship. We didn't think Cameron Bovier was going to pull out and get injured and all that stuff. You know, we thought it was going to be a fist fight all the way to New Jersey.
Right.
So that kind of forced our hand to go test at COTA. You know, it was a lot of money, and it was, you know, middle of a couple of races, and it wasn't quite planned to go there and do it, but it was an opportunity. We couldn't pass it up, so we did it.
Yeah.
And I think that helped us out with having a place to go back to if we got screwed up somehow, when we did in the first session.
Well, you know, going back to what you were saying too, you because of what you thought with the competition, right? You previously had thought that it was going to go all the way to the end, and you know, it forced your hand in the shop too to continue developing the bike. And you know, it seemed evident that that was the case because it didn't look like the Yamahas had really any kind of deficit on the speed down the straightaway. Like,
Well, what we got a handle on was the pitfalls of the spec fuel, which the Ducati team still struggled with that weekend, and a few other teams still struggled.
right.
And before race 2, they lost an engine in race 1.
Right.
Heron went out and he was racing around with Jake, and so they went out in race 1, and then what's his name? Simone, I think his name is, the data guy from Ducati.
Right.
After the race, he came over to our pit and said, "Did you guys find something? A batch number or something like that?" I said, "No, we're on the same fuel, the spec fuel. But I saw you're having some failures. I can tell you what we've done to alleviate the problems." And so I gave him a little bit of information on the tuning. And obviously their engine didn't fail, and damn it, they beat us in race 2. And then after the race was over, he came over and thanked me.
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was a nice gesture. Yeah, he goes, "Thank you, that really worked." And I don't know if they can do that the rest of the season, but I told him, I said, we really changed our engine configuration to be able to deal with it, because it seems like every year was getting a little bit worse. Just a little bit of background: we've been working with VP a little bit too on the new fuel. They have a new fuel called MGPR coming out for 2024, and we've been given some information. We've done some dyno tests with it. We did a little bit at COTA test, and we're doing some long runs on it, trying to see if and then basically when you help the guys with a fuel like this, you need to give some information. So we're doing some race simulations, long ones, along with some new analysis equipment like knock sensors and things like that. We put on the engine to see where we're at. So we've been taking, so you do is you get your threshold of where the knock noise happens, and then you try a couple of different, like the MGPR versus MGP. They put in timing, fuel, mixture of this, that amount of airspeed, and then you see where the knock happens, and you try to avoid that. And so I think they've been pretty good with trying to fix the situation. Even though they won't admit there's a problem, there's a problem.
They won't admit it's a problem, but they're trying to address it.
Well, I was saying before that people are breaking different things. Yeah. Like I think ADR had a brand new OEM bottom end with a race head on it. Something that Westby guys do. They usually don't even really do anything with the bottom end. The R1s usually just head and cams, and we do the whole thing. But they do head and cams, and the things are fast. The R1's really reliable that way, but Dave broke or Bobby broke we think a connecting rod. I'm not sure yet. It'll be another month before I take it apart, but some of that stuff comes from knock. So some people have to study up on what knock is, and detonation kind of knock. There's pre-ignition, and that stuff is really hard on engines. I mean, it'll break rods, it'll break crankshafts, it'll break pistons, it'll melt pistons. I mean, all that stuff happens, and every engine kind of suffers differently. Some people say, "Oh, it was a bearing." Well, the knock could have taken out a bearing before it took out the piston. So the Ducati guys were suffering a bit. We were suffering a bit. The BMW broke. One of the BMWs broke. I'm not sure exactly what broke on theirs. The ADR guys broke. There was just a bunch of broken engines, and it's usually always these long racetracks like Road America and COTA. So anyway, make a long story short, there's certain things you can do to stop it. Removing compression, changing your squish number, stuff like that. And we did a bunch of work like that after Road America, just to make sure we can actually survive these races. And then we keep sneaking up on it. So that test that we did, kept sneaking up on it, and we got a lot closer. We knew how much time we would get away with, what our fuel mixture should be for that compression ratio and stuff like that.
Well, it certainly, like I said, it certainly looks like it's making a difference because, like I said, I think probably even the announcer guys, Pridmore and those guys were even talking about it. Like, oh, you must have found something. So. Well,
we did. We changed the volumetric efficiency of the engine too. So we went back and changed the port shapes and all that, trying to get more out of a low compression engine. So it was almost like building an engine for pump gas. and trying to make it breathe like a big cam engine, let's say, on pump gas, like a street car. Say, I want to be able to run my street car on pump gas, and so you won't go and put a bunch of compression in it. You'll be able to. So the mentality of having a race fuel was out the window, And we've been telling the guys at VP, it's like, look, we've been to Portimao, we've gone down a 200-mile-an-hour straightaway, and with a World Superbike spec fuel, and we take apart the engine, and things look beautiful. The bearings are perfect. The paint on the pistons, the coating on the pistons looks like nowhere. There's no heat on the piston, but the things are making crazy power, and especially when they're going down the racetrack and they're breathing a lot of air, so the volumetric efficiency comes up with that as well, and you end up with it affects the mile per hour for sure. So we've gone up with a little different mentality this year because it seems like the fuel has been degrading. Last year's fuel was better than this year's fuel, and we couldn't run last year's engines this year. Wow. So anyway.
Yeah, that's well, you know what? Like, talking about the fuel more, I mean, I could share a screenshot of something
go ahead.
Yeah, let me. This is something that somebody sent me, and they're like, "Did you hear about this?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about, dude?" And here, let me go there. Stand by. Yeah. So this is this is what was shared with me. I don't know. Can you see it?
I can see it if you want.
Yeah,
And first of all, it's not from Warhorse HSBK. It's Warhorse HBSK.
Yeah, HBSK. So whoever.
Someone's got a pretty good sense of humor.
Yeah, and they spelled they spelled COTA with a D.
With a D, yeah. Must be Phil Herron.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean,
the D. COTA.
So where were you guys hiding the cheater fuel, Richard?
Let me tell you exactly what happened. Okay, I told John Owens I was going to say exactly what happened because Phil Herron has been muscling or trying to, road racing world to report on this rumor. And so before the weekend started, I told Teague, who's the tech director, that, hey, and this actually started after Road America. When we killed a couple engines in the first session of Road America, I started getting with VP. They came over, they pulled samples of our fuel and took it back to the lab. And I got with their chemist, their race director, and their director of motorsports. Where it was 3 guys. We had a phone conference and I showed them pistons from last year. I showed them pistons from this year. I showed them the difference in fuel. I think we've gone over this a bunch of times, before on the show, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the guys down there in Marietta in California, I said, hey, do you guys still have the 22 blend? Because what it is, they'll have the X22 or X23, and then the last, D. D would be the 4th month, let's say. And so he said, he brings me back because he's going to come up and get the fuel. And he said, yeah, we have one more drum of this X22D. I said, well, that's the drum we had that we ran at, that's the batch, because we keep track of all the batch numbers. That's the batch we ran at Road Atlanta. 0 issues. I said, bring that drum up here. I want it. I said, you got any more of it? Because I wanted to kind of do the next couple races on the 22 stuff. And he said, no, it's the only drum we have. I said, all right. So he brings it over. We plop it in the dyno room. We leave it there. I said, I'm going to save that for COTA. So we get to the track, and we have both the current spec fuel and the X22D fuel, which is the 22 4th month of 22 or something like that. And so we do race 1. We take the scope and we look at the pistons, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of getting a little concerned. I don't like what I'm looking at, And then the BMW, and then not the BMW, but then the Ducati blows up. I'm like, we're like at the same thing with those guys, right? Remember last year, Petrucci burned up a couple?
Yep.
So I'm like, we have the same kind of tendencies those things do. So I think I'm going to go to 22 batch, because the current batch, it fools you on the dyno. It makes just a little bit better power than the old stuff. So we take the 22 batch and we run that. Now, Teague knew about this, going into it because I told him.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. As long as it's the same color and it's the same fuel. I go, well, they say it's the same gas. The formulation hasn't changed. I go, but I think it has. So they say, no, it hasn't changed. All right, cool. So we get through race 2. Teague pulls fuel from everyone. It's like, hey, this one, the yellow is just a little lighter on ours, because it's obviously from a different batch. So he's like, I'm going to seal all this up and send it to VP to double check or whatever lab. So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so that's that.
So that's the end of it.
Well, I don't know.
Why you got, I mean, so like,
that's the whole right there.
So is this time to turn in the number 1 plates and,
Yeah, firing squad, straight to firing squad.
Yeah. Like, I don't know who comes up with this shit, but man, it's funny.
That's a sad part of what we do. Unfortunately, the paddock is like a bunch of old women gossiping all the time. Sorry, Chuck, but that's what it is.
Right.
We're always like, oh, that guy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I guarantee if it was M4, Vision X-Star, M4 Suzuki, I can never remember the whole name. It's like a long one like ours.
Right.
But anyway, if their color difference was a little off, I guarantee everyone would be like, oh my God, did you hear it? Blah, 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 blah. So whatever. They can have at it. We'll be at New Jersey, do what we do. You know what? I have an idea. We can have Simone from Ducati. Is his name Simone? I think it is.
Yeah, that's
guy,
right.
Smart guy, really nice guy. He's always waving at me. But, since I helped him out a little bit, just a little bit, I'm not taking credit for anything. So I helped him out a little. He'd come over and pour his gas into our tank at New Jersey.
Uh-oh.
What do you think?
I mean, but then how are you going to get the cheater gas? Are you going to pour the cheater gas?
Maybe if I just give him it with a wink.
Yeah.
And he'll go and mix some shit up real quick.
Yeah. Well, because you gotta have the secret, the pimp juice, right? You gotta have the pimp juice.
Well, we're gonna keep the secret sauce on the tires, though. The Petrucci accused us of.
Yes.
Remember that?
That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
Opening lap, there's something wrong. It wasn't Petrucci, though. It was certain members of the team.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
It was different Italians. It wasn't. I don't think it was that Simone guy. It was a different guy.
I mean, with the failures that you saw, do you think the heat had something to do with it too, or?
Yeah, all that. I mean, the fuel temperature goes up. I mean, it just affects everything, without a doubt. Without a doubt, we were running pretty rich there to stay alive. So we're willing to give up some top speed to make sure our engine's finished.
Right.
And we look at the pistons every run. I bet if those Ducati guys had scoped their cylinders, they probably would have freaked out and maybe not killed that engine, that they did.
Well, I remember seeing you, you have the boys basically tear the airbox and stuff off. And I mean, you're in there with the board, with the
every single section. Yeah, I think we're going to wear the spark plugs out. So like I said, there's a couple ways you could do this. You could do this with low compression, or you can do it with managing when the knock happens and how to go about adding fuel, taking out fuel, stuff like that, and working with timing. There's a lot of little nuances about keeping the engines alive, along with even ring end gap and things like that. As soon as that thing gets hot and the rings come together, boom, the friction goes way up, and now you're going to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things going on, and BMW has a handle on it. Maybe because they come standard with knock sensors, and those things are developed around all the nuances of like what I'm talking about. So they're able to build a map over there.
But you said they had a failure too, right?
They did. They did. Not. I think. I don't know what their failure was. I can't speak to them.
Right.
So I don't know what it was, but I sure seemed like there was a lot of guys more than normal dropping oil and breaking rods and this and that and whatever else. So
yeah,
and it's not like the paddock's full of morons. They don't know how to build engines.
Right. Well, I will say this.
They know how to build engines.
My Harley bagger racer buddy Frankie Garcia he was all heated because the baggers didn't drop oil this weekend and the Superbikes did. So he was like, hey, you know.
Yeah, they're on a different fuel. They're on T4, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on a different fuel.
Would
Yeah.
would T4 work for us? I mean,
so this is where this whole thing started. So when VP took over this program, okay, so the marketing guys from Motor America, I'm not going to mention any names, but you know Jeff knows who he is, and the marketing guys from Motor America kept riding VP to make the cheap fuel for the paddock. Because the paddock is poor, and we want to be inclusive, and we want a really cheap fuel. So the VP guys have got in their head that we are requiring or demanding a low budget fuel that's economical, and that's what they built. You know, so now we're like trying to impress upon them, myself, Teague, other team members, you know, Chuck, probably Bobby Shack over at HSBK. I mean, he would like to have an open fuel rule so we can all run ELF and ETS and whatever, you know, ENI and all the other world stuff that's available. But Panta, you know, all that stuff, you could run big compression with it and go down long straightaways and no problem. You know, so we're trying to impress upon VP. I think they have another year in their agreement with Motor America too. Please build us a quality fuel that's made for Superbikes, the same level as World Superbike. And VP is a gigantic company. I mean, they're over here doing the Baja 500. They do top fuel stuff. They do just crazy stuff all over the place. I mean, we're just like a little tiny little thing for them. So, I mean, they have gas stations. I mean, it's just a gigantic company. You go into Walmart or something like that, they got VP products all over the place. Yeah. So, you know, we're more of an annoyance, I think. So, we're trying to walk, yeah, seriously, but we're trying to walk it into, hey, can you make us a good fuel that doesn't cost us $40,000 a weekend?
Yeah, I'm sure you guys would love to spend another, you know, I don't know what you spend per gallon on that stuff, but.
Well, all year we've been willing to give up speed. Yeah. To stay alive. Right. You know, you can't win championships if your stuff's on the side of the road broken. Right. But hopefully next year when they give us the latest version of the MGPR, hopefully we can work with them and help them come up with something. They already make it, I think, a moto fuel, which is at the higher level of the FIM spec. Maybe that's the way to go, you know, for motocross. And it's at the higher level of the FIM spec. So maybe we can lean on them to get that. It's probably more expensive. But, you know, I've talked to various people in the paddock. How much more expensive? I mean, when you shit 3 engines in one session, how expensive is that? Well, we probably did 2 that I know of. Right. I think. I don't know. Again, it's just in the little chat I had with those guys, not very much. Right. But I mean, you know, the stuff gets around. All the old women, you know talking to each other. The sewing circle. Yeah. In the paddock. Yeah, they're all knitting in the paddock. You know, talking to blah 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 blah. Anyway, so you know who the leader of the sewing circle is too, right? I'm not going to mention names, but it might be Chuck. Chuck Cicchetto. Yeah. You know, he's the mayor. The mayor's running around doing that, right? Yeah. So shaking hands. Yeah. But anyway, so I heard they killed 2. So I think their engines are like 35, 40 grand a piece. Oh man. You know, I mean, obviously they didn't kill the whole thing. They got to pull the cylinders up, replace those, replace the head, rods, whatever. You know, I mean, so but it got to be $20,000 in damage per engine by the time it's all said and done, or something close to that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what their whole program is, but and then to build a spec specifically for Motor America, I don't know, just not really productive. So back to some more racing stuff. There was a section, there was a right-hand corner in race 2 that Jake looked like he was getting murdered. You know, it looked like Richie was all over the back of him a bunch of times. Do you think that like what's the deal with that? Was that the arm, the hand thing, or you know, I don't know, because we were packing up and doing all. I had to get to the airport I had to leave at 5. Yeah. To get the boys to the airport because our flight was that day. So I didn't have a lot of time to debrief. John would have a better answer to that. But I got to think it's, you know, right hand turn. So it's probably affecting his grip strength on the bar. It's probably takes your focus on what you have to do. We didn't have any problems the day before with grip. Never mentioned the rear tire. JD never mentioned the rear tire as far as grip goes. So I think our grip was pretty good. You know, and the temperature of the track was the same. It was maybe 1 or 2 C lower. I think we're like 51, 52 the day before. I think we're right at 50. And the ambient was a little bit lower, like 42 instead of 43, something of that nature. And so I don't think it was anything to do with the performance of the bike. The bike didn't change. The tires didn't change unless we got a bad one. So I got to think that it was just struggling a little bit with his hand.
Yeah, maybe burned it up on Saturday, you know.
Maybe, because there was a little bit of a decline, but you know, he's not going to go around going, oh my hand, you know.
No. All right, so let's get to some of the comments. All right,
Yeah,
so Proto says, rumor there's a 2024 R1 getting a small update. Anyone else heard of this?
I don't know anything about any of that.
Okay.
If I did, I wouldn't tell you, because it's not my place.
There you go.
I don't want to get fired.
That. Okay, let's see. Says that David Cross says you've got a better view now because you're not staring at your ceiling lights. So I guess commenting on your camera swap.
Yeah, straight ahead versus them on my laptop, and it's like going up my nostrils. I don't like it.
You're like, oh, I need to trim my nostril. That's great.
Or I gotta lower my seat. You know, I'd be like this.
You'd be like Gil.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Pinky says, here's a question for you. How long did you know that Jonathan Ray was going to replace Top Rack? And was
Not at all.
And was Jake Gagne on that list if Johnny Ray didn't take the offer?
No, I think Jake Gagne was, you know, part of our program going forward. So, but that's still, you know, you never know with a silly season. Who knows what will happen?
Yeah.
But I didn't know about Johnny Ray, and you know, Chuck Axland is Johnny Ray's manager.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, I really haven't communicated with the guys at Yamaha Europe very much this year because we kind of do our thing and we haven't had any issues. And other than a fuel thing, you know, that keeps rearing its ugly head. But we haven't had any issues with any electronics and things like that. So we've been just blazing the path and doing our thing. And the races come one after the other, so you don't really have a lot of time for chit chat. You know, so I didn't know anything. I think it was pretty secretive. Chuck Axland told I spoke to him a bit about it and congratulated him on that little coup that they did. And he hasn't commented. Well, he had a Kawasaki deal, and I promised him I wouldn't mention his little insight on their meetings. You know, so I won't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
But,
just you know, looking at it like.
I can tell you this much. He said that Johnny is really, really like rejuvenated, motivated.
Really?
And I know for a fact the guys at Yamaha Europe are like, they're all passionate. You know, so they're very, very excited, Italians, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're very passionate about what they do. And so to have a really motivated rider turns them on too. You know, like we're talking about the JD thing, how his positive, energetic attitude, you know, it spreads its way around the paddock or around the pit, and it's the same thing if they have a really, really motivated rider. You know, it motivates them as well. I remember the Ducati boss talking about that with the young MotoGP riders they get, and they said, you know, like the old guys, Lorenzo or whoever, they're kind of a bummer. He didn't say it in those words, but the new guys they're so happy to be there riding a MotoGP bike. They're not getting paid much, but they're riding the crap out of it, and it's just better bang for the buck. And it's always fun to have those young guys ride by. Just have to have another container full of bodywork. That's about it.
A container, like a shipping container of nothing but bodywork.
Well, at least a shipping crate. How about that?
There you go.
Full of bodywork.
I mean, a container, really. I mean.
Yeah, like the container worth.
Yeah,
think about what Lorenzo was getting paid. You could probably have a shipping container full of bodywork and still save a bunch of money.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's talking about that musical chair stuff. You know, I mean, there's been a lot of that this year. It seems like, you know, dudes that are in contract swapping teams, and you know, guys that have been on the same team forever, swapping teams.
Yeah, Kyla went to you know, Tytler's, right, to ride that Kawasaki.
Yeah, yeah,
She
yeah, Yakov.
Yakov,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Kayla, yeah, and then you know, obviously, SDK ended up kind of getting clipped from the American Racing Team, and he was
Did
he was riding for another team.
I thought I thought the other guy jumped out of it too. What the heck was his name? They parted ways.
On that
He
team?
had another guy American on there, didn't he? And they parted ways too.
I don't know. I mean,
it's not road racing world, I think.
Yeah,
but anyway, it's not important.
Max Toth, I heard. I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
But he was doing the Spanish, the Junior Moto 2 or whatever.
Oh, was he? Okay, all right. And he jumped out of that deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Tough deal, Moto 2.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you know, that's a tough gig. But there's a lot of that, you know. I mean, obviously, Top Rack going to BMW, and it's just like musical chairs, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hope to not see too much of that here, but we saw it here, right? With Kayla Yakov going to, you know.
Yeah, I know that Bobier's on another year with Tytlers.
Yeah.
But Jake is open right now. I think he's got an offer from Yamaha, and I don't know what all the details are. So I'm sure I think Yamaha would like to have him back for another couple of years.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
yeah. And I hear rumor of maybe Estenson coming road racing, flat track team.
Nice.
Yeah, so if that happens, maybe JD will be on a Superbike. I know JD wants to ride a Superbike. I know that for a fact. So
yeah. Well,
I think it might be worth some team having them if Estenson doesn't do it, without a doubt.
Right. Yeah, there was more talk of the rumor of that other team showing up to the paddock. I don't know if it's Estenson or the Honda thing. I keep hearing that. So
yeah, the Honda thing maybe it won't happen until the following year. I really hope those guys get their stuff together and find a good team to put their logo on.
Yeah,
because I think it's going to come, and I think they even wanted to talk to us. But I'm pretty happy with the Yamaha deal, even if it's not super lucrative. It works for the business. The bikes are good, the people are good. I'd like to continue with that more than anything, because our contract's up as well.
Oh, really?
We have an offer on the table, and it looks good. I wouldn't say I'm getting rich off any of this stuff. That's for damn sure. But my policy's always been, if I can break even going racing, that's a win. Because most people lose money going racing.
Well, yeah.
Unless you make rich, then you make money going racing. So they tell me. I don't know how it works.
You said that out loud, dude. I love that.
Well, that's what Chris told me. He said, my business is racing. I said, well, you must make money at it. But
yeah,
I think I tell my team that I'm an amateur because I don't make any money doing it.
Yeah.
Because to be a pro, you have to actually have to turn a profit.
And okay, so 848.
Yeah, I think that whole deal at Vision, X-Star, M4, Suzuki, I think they've stepped it up pretty good. I congratulate those guys after race one. I said, you guys deserve this. You guys really done a great job bringing Richie that far forward. Every time he turns the wheel of that thing, it seems like he's getting closer and closer.
Richie's getting better and better. It seems like every weekend.
Well, it takes a team to do that.
Yeah.
You can put him on some bike, and he's going to be struggling. It takes the whole team to do that.
Right. They've been chipping away, and he's got a podium now. So that was his first podium, right? Or
I know. I thought I had one before, but then they're like, "Why are you guys so happy?" That was our first podium. We go, oh, shit! I thought you guys had one before.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay,
good.
So 848 Evo wants to know, how many front and rear compounds are there?
Well, rear would be R0, R3, R5, R7, R8. That's 5.
R8.
But for COTA, R8. That's where we use the Laguna.
Oh, okay.
And because the track was so abrasive and so new, and it had it was like Velcro. So any tire would stick to it. You just needed some tire that didn't fall apart. So we ran the hardest tire, and it was stuck like Velcro. And same at Road America. It was freshly paved, so the R8 was the choice. And then there's an R0 on the rear, which is the qualifying tire.
Oh, okay.
But at COTA, we only had the R5 and R7 because that was the wear that it range that they wanted. I thought they might bring an R8, but I think they made a good choice with those two tires. And yeah, I told Hunter from Dunlop, I said, good job, man. You guys were able to break the track record with one of your race tires that was done on a real cue. I mean, to do that, that's really, really good for them to go that fast on a regular tire. It's just taken a while to get our heads around how to make that tire work on our motorcycle because we didn't test with it in the winter. We tested on standard tires. But anyway, then on the front, there's an R0, R3, R5, R7. So there's four compounds I know of on the front. And we've used all of them. Some places we've used an R3, some places we used an R0, some places we used an R5. Like I think at Laguna, we used a R7 front. And even that one was getting a little bit grainy. And at Ridge, I think, not Ridge, but Brainerd, we used an R0 front. And sometimes an R3. And then at COTA, we used an R5 front. So it's kind of how the track puts the heat on the tire and how hard the braking is and what the turning's like and what the feeling is for the rider. They all pretty much going to do the same lap time depending on the surface. The front anyway. So
next question is from Tim P. He says it's weird to him that the R6 can no longer be run after next year, but the Chevy BMW is like 7 years old. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my wheelhouse. Yamaha's I think Yamaha's got a new bike coming out. They'll probably, announce it at some point, not next year, year after, or something like that, and as a alternative. But you know what? That R6 is such a good bike. I think it's going to stay around for a while. I don't know exactly if the R6 is going to go away after next year. There is a GYTR head that's going to be allowed, which is a special head, all CNC, special casting, I do believe, no epoxy. Or you can get an epoxy-filled head and do the same thing as World Supersport does now. That's allowed. And you can run either YEC. I talked to Teague about this. They can run either YEC or they can run the GYTR head. They're open to it. Or the Mechatronics World Supersport ECU. It's kind of like just run what you need to come to the racetrack. That's kind of the attitude of the R6.
Wow.
And but if you get the next gen thing after that, then it's going to be pretty much controlled ECU with controlled torque delivery and all that stuff, to where it's really going to be a rider's race versus I'm able to draft this guy and beat him down straight away. Although it looks like the Suzukis were pretty much dominating the straightaway, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
I know that Forres is a good rider and he deserves that championship. He had to learn all the tracks, and he did a good job. But that Suzuki's pretty freaking fast. I mean, it passed him. Although that last lap I watched, what's his name? Was Tyler Scott?
Yeah, Tyler right? Scott. The last couple laps, really.
Last couple laps. I mean, he rode the freaking wheels off that thing. I don't know what happened with those guys. I mean, they used more off-roading than they did on-roading on that last lap.
Oh, dude.
I mean, what green? Like, did they both get penalties for going all over the green?
I don't think so.
We jumped the green by this much at Laguna or whatever, right? And they were like in the parking lot racing.
Right.
It was fun to watch, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those last two laps were amazing. And, Forres still took a shot, even.
Okay.
I mean, he took a shot at the end. I mean, he lost, but he still took a shot, and it was awesome. So.
Yeah, no, he's not a give-up guy whatsoever.
No,
for sure.
No. Okay.
It's going to be interesting. I think he might be on the Superbike next year is what I hear. So, I mean, think about the Superbike class. You're going to have Matt possibly over at Westby. Then you're going to have Forres on something. You're going to have Heron. You're going to have Bobier. You're going to have Jake. You're going to have Cam P. You might have JD.
PJ.
PJ. I mean, it's going to be stacked.
Yeah.
To get in the top 5, you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, man. That's the best racing is when it's like that.
It's probably gonna be about 10 really good guys. And then I noticed that Shivy's bike has been getting closer and closer to the front too.
Yep.
If it's as ancient as they say it is, but that's been getting better as well.
Yeah. Ashton's. I talked to his dad quite a bit. He's that dude's. He was one of my heroes, right? So
Yes.
Yeah,
Aaron,
Aaron,
no more.
Aaron Yates, man. Well, no, because he doesn't ride no more. So it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But man, when he was riding, it was like he was a wild man, and
Yeah.
he was a total goon, which is like, right?
The flying karate kick.
That was at the end of his career, and that was
That was Daytona.
Yep. We watched that live during one of our Hooters parties.
The flying karate kick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Did you end up missing the next race? Somebody banned for a race or something?
I can't remember. Aaron did a bunch of weird shit. Like he threw rocks on the track to get a red flag once, I think.
He laid on the track.
Or no, that was Miguel. He laid on the track, I think. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think Aaron did that too.
Yeah. He might have done both. But yeah,
I don't know
legends, so just getting to talk to him, and I guess he had made suggestions, and they made a change, and he's like, see, man, why didn't you do that from the word go? I mean, just because he's Southern as shit, right? So super good dude. But yeah, we saw this one guy walking around in the pits, and this guy Pinky commented that you should put Colin Edwards on as a substitute rider next time.
Yeah, Colin Edwards. I saw
Colin Edwards looks fit, doesn't he?
That dude, I hear he eats terrible and he never gains an ounce.
Yes.
But he was there in our pit talking to Tom, and Tom was his motocross mechanic when Colin was like 16 or 17 years old or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Tom probably tell you the whole story, but I mean that, and then he went to road racing, and I met Colin Edwards' dad at Big Willow. I've probably told the story before. Sat in my trailer when I was racing. I think it was like 1990 or 91, and that's when Colin got the ride on the 250 from those guys in Texas, and then he went on to do some Superbike after that, and went back to Yamaha, and then the World Superbike, and then obviously Grand Prix. And I mean, the guy's a legend. Eric Bostrom was there too. Said hi to me, and
Ben too. Eric and Ben.
And Eric, they're both there.
Yeah. It's pretty cool seeing those guys just coming in, hanging out. I think Eric and Ben were there to do a Ducati day on Monday. Yeah,
that's what he said.
Yeah,
we chatted a bit and told him I still tell stories about him.
Yeah, he and Ben both are cartoon characters, right? I mean, yeah.
Still super lean.
Yes. So Proto says, after all the Moto America talk, can you ask Rich why Yamaha can't get the power for MotoGP that Ducati makes? He said he read news today that Fabio says that he doesn't feel the difference between the old bike and the new 24 spec engine.
I don't know that much about what the MotoGP guys are doing, because I could answer more about World Superbike, I think, than MotoGP, because that's just like a whole nother realm. I'm just so busy with what we do here that just don't have time to even hobnob and ask questions.
Yeah.
Other than what he sees on television, same thing I see. Why are they not there? I think if I had to guess, I'd say that the business model for development in Japan is a little bit different than the business model in Italy or in Europe, in Austria, or wherever, like KTM. I think the Italians and the Austrians or whoever, Aprilia, KTM, Ducati, I think they're a lot more like our shop, where they go, I think I want to do this, and then 2 days later they're doing it. Where I think in Japan it's a little more controlled, a little more safe, a little more regulated, and I think that doesn't fit right now with how fast the development's going on in MotoGP. That makes sense?
Right. Yeah.
I think the jumps aren't big enough, and so they don't. It's not as maybe the develop's not. That's just me guessing, but thinking of the mindset of when I've worked with a Japanese before, with Kawasaki or Suzuki or whoever, the very, very controlled, very conservative, and so I think it doesn't fit in the current MotoGP mold.
Right. So let's see here. There's a comment about your whether or not your engines are developed in-house, and then the same dude has a few more questions later.
Yeah,
like about
we here.
Yeah, so
do everything here.
and you know what? For those that don't know, when Richard says they do everything here, he really means they do everything. Yeah, like they make everything. Like basically, the only thing he doesn't make is the mainframe, and the cases,
bodywork,
and the bodywork. Yeah. But swing arm, all that, trip clamp, basically everything outside of the cases and the frame. Pretty much.
Yeah, we build the harnesses. We do all that stuff. Obviously, we're not making the hard parts. We're not making lambda sensors and dashes and ECUs, but
right
around the hard parts we build in house.
Yeah, and then how much would an Attack swing arm cost, or is it available to the general public?
No, until they mandate that we make it available, we're not going to sell it. I would refer them to Suter, our sponsor.
Yeah,
they supply us with clutches, and they make a really nice swing arm that they can. That's what the Westby guys use, and it works fine. Just a matter of just getting the right shock for the linkage that they supply, and the spring rate and all that kind of stuff, and length and blah blah blah. And they can do all that stuff in Motospec, which we're going to talk about, I think, after the season's up.
Yeah,
right? Have a series on Motospec.
Yeah, we've been kind of teasing the Motospec thing for a little bit. We're gonna put the lab coats on, pocket protectors, the glasses, and everything. We're gonna go full nerd.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna go get a lab coat just to be funny, and a stethoscope or something.
I'll be the guy with full nerd. You'll be just sitting there going, what does that mean?
You're like, do you follow me? And I'm like, no. That's all right.
I tell riders all the time, get somebody else to work on your motorcycle. As soon as you start working on it, you go slower.
Yeah, that working on bikes is dumb. No, it's not doing it. Not doing it. Yosef used to always make fun of me when he'd work on my. Actually, I got to bring it back to you guys so he can make fun of me some more. But yeah, totally agree with that. Don't work on your own bike, guys.
Question wise.
Do what?
Any more questions?
Yeah. Let's see. Anthony Miller wants to know what type of electronics you guys are running on the quote factory bikes, without divulging too much. Obviously, not a YEC package. I'm guessing. Is it the same across all the teams?
We have Morelli MLE 240s. That's the ECU. That's the same as World Superbike. It's so Yamaha Europe develops the software. They use a Japanese version of the same ECU that we're not privy to, but it's basically the next level down. But it's really, really capable. So I don't know how much better it could be on the Japanese version, but it's really, really capable. And it's the same thing that their satellite team GRT uses, same as Westby uses, same as Bobby Fong has on his bike with the ADR guys. It's the same as Perk had on his bike when we sold him that Garrett Gerloff bike. So he still has that. So it's all Morelli right. Software, Morelli ECU, yeah.
Right on. And the other teams are using basically that too, right? I mean, Morelli.
What are the other teams? The Suzuki uses Morelli. I don't know what BMW's using, if they use a Bosch ECU or if they use a Morelli. I know the World Superbike team is kind of going back and forth with it. So I don't know what Alpha sells those guys. I have no idea.
There you go. Well, yeah, there you go, dude. Hopefully that works out for you. Tim P says in some club racing orgs they use a pump around where you can go to tech with a full tank and then they suck it out into a 55-gallon drum and then it mixes with everyone else's gas and then refill. What? That doesn't
You know, like I said, I think it would be good going forward. And I didn't think about this until this latest little drama, is that they just mandate that everyone buys their gas at the track, and then they have sample batches to compare against.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of going, oh crap, this looks a little bit different. What am I going to do now? So that's kind of the position that Teague was in. And my guys, I mean, I was on the way to the airport. My guys were like, man, Teague was kind of like running around in circles and trying to do a bunch of stuff. He wasn't in a very comfortable spot. And I talked to him afterwards, like, hey, man, I think he saw that quote or whatever the hell that thing was, that fake thing there. He said, none of that's true. None of that's true. I said, I'm not worried about it. You know, you're worried about it. I'm not worried about it. And I go, just let it play out.
Right.
You know, drama. Paddock loves drama.
Yeah, they do. They do. I mean, I got sent that screenshot by multiple people, and not a single one of them recognized that it was BS.
BSK.
BSK. Come on, guys! Like, and it didn't say Ducati in the name anywhere. It's like, you know, all they had to do is do a search for that account and couldn't find one.
Does the H stand for Heron?
I mean, maybe, you know,
not the son, the dad.
Right. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. So Rick's pick said Corey Alexander said he blew 2 engines, and you know what? I'll give. I did listen to Jason and Greg's podcast this morning while I was riding the bicycle. Yeah. And you know, they talked briefly about the fuel thing too, and but then later on, they were talking about Corey Alexander. Kind of, it sounded like Corey's been kind of getting the shit into the stick over there, man. Like, you know, timed out engines and that kind of thing. And I'm like, whoa. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either.
His crew chief is a pretty good friend of mine. I mean, he worked for me way back in 2001 with Pridmore, when Pridmore was riding, was Carl Steyer. So you know, I think it's just a matter of how many parts they have. For 3-ride teams are really hard to put together. You know, and some bikes are getting crashed up. I know Corey destroyed a whole motorcycle and they put one all back together. I mean, you just don't know what's happening on the back end of a team. Just like I kind of felt bad for the Ducati guys blowing up 2 engines. Yeah. You know, that big, and then is their guy coming over and asking us for advice, like, you know, what do you do? What's going on? Do you find a different batch? Is this, that, whatever? And you know, I felt bad for the dude, or else I probably, if the guy was a dickhead, I probably wouldn't have said anything. You know, but we've been in that position before where we're down our last engine and we're like crossing our fingers. You know, it worked out for them, so good for them. But I kind of understand what happens at the back end of these teams, and I don't. There's no glory in that, you know, like gloating on, oh man, that's how bad things happen to that team over there. You know, like I wasn't a big fan of Cam Beaubier falling down. No, even though it made it easier for us, but I wasn't a big fan of him not coming racing. I wasn't a big fan of the Ducati blowing up. You know, I'd rather have a nice, fun race to watch.
Well, you know, I mean, Beaubier, I guess he was way more fucked up than he told everybody. You know, I guess he had surgery and stuff. Like
on his knee, I think.
Yeah, right? Like his knee was all fucked up. Like, you know, he's such a tough dude that he kind of like makes it seem like it was no big deal, but then it was a big deal. Like,
I think he did the right thing. I think he did the right thing. He's going to be an animal next year. It's going to be tough. You have to really work for the winner.
Christopher McQuarrie is like, is it squiggly line time yet? Like, bro, we're like an hour and 30 minutes into this thing, man. Like,
oh yeah, it's that time, huh? Should I do a squiggly line thing? What do you want to see?
You know what? Let's do a comparison of the straightaway speed from last year versus this year.
No, there's no difference. So I'm not going to give you that.
Okay. Wow. Let's see.
Actually, we're faster. We're faster this year because last year, if you recall, we smoked a couple engines in qualifying.
And you made them slow on purpose so they would live.
We made them really slow. They were like 10K slower than this year.
Really?
So I can tell you that, but I can't give you the full enchilada.
All right. There you go.
Got to keep some mystery there.
You know what? We don't need to do squiggly lines in this one. I mean, I think
you know. I want to show you this interesting.
Okay.
It's about JD like coming uncorked.
Yeah.
In that opening lap.
Yeah.
Let me show you his throttle on time because not one of our riders has been able to beat Jake's throttle on time.
Okay.
Another rider, right? We're always telling him, look, you're still 2 or 3 seconds behind.
Yeah.
So let me show you this real quick. Let me just.
Here you go, Chris McCrary. We're going to full nerd again, and we're going to do squiggly line duty.
So race 2, we'll do the JD Lee, that guy, and Gagne.
Yeah, people are asking for braking zones.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that too. So let me hold on. I didn't open it properly. So
while you're searching for that, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I am 17 days away from the big bicycle ride.
What is that?
The San Francisco to LA.
What is it? San Francisco to LA. Okay.
Yeah. You said okay. Like, eh.
I mean, that's a big ride. I can't even imagine doing it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So here we go. Share screen window. That one. Okay, you see it?
It takes a sec. Yeah, I see it now. Yes.
Okay, so let's eliminate some of this nonsense. It's pretty much whatever. So if you look at this green line and the red line, so if you go up here, you're going to see that Gagne is red.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And you see the green? That's JD. So what this is the throttle. Maybe just get rid of the grip, or a brake, so it's a little bit less of a little more obvious, right? So what this tells us is how long the guy is on the throttle for that lap, right? Okay. So again, Gagne is red and JD is green. So on that out lap, I think JD lost his marbles. And just went.
What the hell, dude?
And he went complete lunatic, right? And
I'm looking to the right too. Look at over on the right side of the screen over there. Like,
yeah. So this is from a dead start after the restart.
Okay.
JD uses more throttle than Jake till he gets to here like full throttle time. So he's up on him. Where's the throttle thingy? Let's see here, grip, brake, full throttle time right here. So by the time he gets past the S's, JD's already put almost a full second of full throttle time on Jake. That's how much he wants to get to the front. And then by the time they get to the end of the straightaway, they're dead even, 16.3 seconds, 16.2 seconds. And then JD continues to put more full throttle time on Jake, going through everyone. By the time he crashes, right, into Skoltz, sorry, Chuck, he's already 2 seconds up on Jake on full throttle time.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting, so that's like, I haven't seen that before. Like Jake's always been the man with a full throttle time. So it's interesting. Anyway, look at some of this information.
He really is a lunatic.
You can look at somebody's mind when you look at some of these squigglies, like fire.
Yeah.
Probably started dead last. He was like, "I'm going to make up for this on this opening lap." I wish you had taken maybe one more lap. At least one more corner to try to pass Skoltz. Maybe a thing would end up on the ground.
Man.
But whatever. It is what it is. It's history. We'll go to New Jersey and try again.
And I guess Will told me that that Chris Rutledge, the bet that he had made at Daytona with them, is a no-go. I guess Chris didn't grow a beard, so.
Well, the changes off.
So, no. Chris was supposed to grow a beard, and I think there was like a championship thing as well. But I guess the bet was like, okay, Chris shows up to Jersey with the full beard and the whole, the Will curls, and if he did that, Will was gonna take a swim in the pool.
Oh, that pond. Yeah, no.
And I guess he doesn't have to now because Chris shaved. So
yeah, I think we'll turn chicken on us.
Or that, yeah. He was pretty adamant about it too. He was like, nope. Like, I'll have to go back to my video. I don't know if I got the whole thing, but I know I videoed some of that bet. So, yeah. I don't blame him for not wanting to swim in that cesspool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, any more questions?
I think we're good, dude. Good luck at Jersey, and I guess we'll have another show at the end of the season, and then we'll do the multi-part motospec.
Yeah, show up in New Jersey for the the knitting competition we're going to have in the paddock.
Yep. I mean, I know Chuck's getting his sewing machine. I think it's a Singer.
Yeah.
He's got one of them classic ones with the cast iron and all that. So
yeah, big cast.
Yeah. That's why the Westby rig, that's why it is the way it is, because it has to haul that big ass sewing machine around.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
All right, dude. See ya.